We are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on yet another Inside Enduro podcast show with me, your host, James Stearns. Today, we are brought to you by Inside Enduro Media. You can find us at inside_enduro on Instagram. Also, Inside Enduro on iTunes. They finally got their act together and let us out to play. Also, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and basically a bunch of other apps. And also you can catch us on our website at insideenduro.com, where we have some interesting things. We have some swag, all that kind of stuff. Our next guest, originally from Truckee, California, now residing in New River, Arizona, a lifelong dirt bike rider and current pro class hard enduro racer. He's been around the world. Please welcome our next guest, Mitch Carvolth. Mitch, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. I guess we're just kind of healing up after Rev Limiter Extreme in Texas.
Yeah, right? Man, I think I noticed, like, taking a shower the other day. I was like, holy crap, this thing beat me up. I don't usually see as many bruises, but I got wrecked.
It was a rough one. People ask, are like, yeah, you're sore? And I'm like, well, not sore from, like, you haven't been working out and you go and, do some activity and then you're sore. Like, no, I'm sore because I got, like, the shit beat out of me.
Oh, yeah,
pretty
for
much.
Sure. Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah, I was like, I have all these bruises, and I'm like, man, I just feel like I got the shit kicked out of me. And I was racing my dirt bike, but it was a brutal one.
Yeah, it was brutal. When it's that slick, obviously you have the limestone, and when the limestone gets wet, you can't stand on it.
No.
It's that slick. And then it seemed the way we drug the clay up from the bottoms onto the hills, then we got clay on those rocks.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just brutal, man.
Yeah, and then we got to find a way to ride over it. It's just adds to it.
I started with pretty much a new pipe. And I honestly, I don't know where they all came from. Like, all the big, like, it was hammered. Like, I don't remember, like, one particular thing that did it, but as I'm washing the bike, I'm like, this thing's fucking hammered.
Right?
So
I started with a new one, and I remember just about every hit I took.
Did you?
Yeah, because I paid for mine. I'm like, shit, try to avoid it, and
yeah,
try not to hit all the rocks. And
yeah,
I hit every single one out there.
I try to keep it clean as well, but I guess there is just a lot of stuff out there.
Oh yeah,
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's tricky too. Like when you come back around after the first lap and everybody sat there stuck for 30 minutes, wide open, polishing the rocks.
Yeah.
You come around and you're like, whoa, this is way slicker than the first time through. But yeah.
It's a surprise too. I had the same thing where I'd made it around on one lap and you come around on the next one and I would go to take the same line, basically, as far as I'm concerned, using the same technique. And all of a sudden, I'm going sideways.
Right.
And you're
lights
like,
out from underneath you.
Yeah.
What just happened?
You're like, what the hell, man? Oh, man. Did you take more, was most of it on Saturday or Sunday? You feel like you kind of got a bit roughed up?
Definitely Sunday.
Really?
Yeah. The first race was bad for me. Right off the get-go, I had a couple crashes and tweaked some levers and things like that. And for me, I'm like, if I don't have everything where I like it, I can't even ride. So I was like sitting there beating them with rocks and trying to get them to where it was like semi like normal. And I'm like, all right, then I can go.
Caveman mechanics.
Yeah. Which typically I have my tool belt and I have all my stuff with me. But on the short course, I'm not too concerned about that. But after that first lap, I was like, I guess I need this. So race 2 and 3, I took my tool belt out with me and I had my stuff after that one. But yeah, I don't like to take rocks to my bike on purpose. So
yeah, it was rough.
Yep.
I didn't. Sunday I was fine. All moto. I typically get stronger as it goes along. But Saturday, on this simple, hot lap, I got hammered. I just got hammered.
Yeah.
Like I told you before, we went through that. What they call that, the Texas two-step. They dug out a trench, and then at the start, and they had the step up into the rocks. And so we go out. As I go over those rocks, as I go to shift to go underneath the Red Bull arch, my shifter's gone. At the start, of a qualifying
Perfect way to
time
start the day.
trial. Yeah, perfect.
Or the weekend.
And
yeah.
I looked down and I was just in disbelief, man. I was like,
Not already.
I'm like, this can't be happening. And believe it or not, I did have a shifter with me, and I had my tool belt, but I didn't have an 8 handy. So I actually had the shifter, and to be 100% honest, I was putting in a T-handle 8, and I thought I'd put it in my tool bag, and I didn't. I realized it before the start. I was going to have someone run over and grab it, and I'm like,
Won't need that.
I won't need that. I mean, what's the chances? I shouldn't bust off a shifter. So long story short, the only fortunate thing was we were a couple hundred yards from the trucks. So someone was able to go and get an 8, and I was able to take it off and put the new one on. But in a time trial that's that short, I lost 6, 7, 8 minutes.
Yeah, it's crucial.
Not the way you want to start your program.
No.
Because as you know, it's like the further you get back, then you have to, you're going to have to deal with more bottlenecks, getting through more people, et cetera. So
yeah,
I was not too stoked. And then, of course, since I knew I was behind from the beginning, I tried to push it.
Hammer down.
Dude, hammer down was not the way to attack the day. It hammered me down.
Right.
Like, I was wrecking in places that I would never wreck. And hard too. I had one where and the people in Texas are so nice. I mean, everyone we met down there was wonderful. And one of these guys doing this nasty climb, and I go to pivot turn, and he's like, "You need to go left. You need to go left. You can get out through the left." And I'm like, "All right." So I start pivoting left, and he grabs my wheel and pulls me over. Well, I'm on the fall line, so it literally pushed me over the edge. So I fell 8-10 feet. And just kaboom, landed on the elbow, and my bike went down with me, and I'm just like, oh, and I was so mad, dude.
You did more harm than good.
Dude, I was so mad, but I was just like, I said some nasty words, but then, and not at him, just nasty words, and then but I still apologized. I was just like, man, I'm not mad at you. You're just trying to help. He didn't mean to do it. Yep. Obviously, he's just trying to help. But man, as you know, man, you're coming up on a nasty situation, and you're trying to pivot turn. You do not need, a 180-pound guy pushing your bike any direction, really.
Right.
So that was a start.
Yeah.
And it was rough.
I feel like when they say riders helping riders in those situations, it's so much better that way instead of having outside assistance like spectators, because they have no idea what they're doing. Whereas you know what you're doing, and if you have a rider coming to help you, they kind of know the same thing. Like, oh, if you get thrown off a bit and you're pulling from this side, it's going to just throw you back down the hill. So they're a little more know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And every time I have spectators trying to help get back, stay away. Well, one, I don't want to get disqualified because you trying to help me thinking it's okay. And two, you're probably going to put me on the ground when I'm not expecting it. So just stay back and let me do my thing.
Yeah, that was Saturday. I mean, Saturday you could have outside assistance. And there was no doubt I can because I've seen it before where even guys who were like Graham Jarvis, who's so mild mannered, where people go to try and help him, and he's just like, get away, he's just screaming at him,
Fires
it's like,
him up.
well, and that's why, because like you said, it's like, and again, I had a couple other situations, and I had to be that way. It's just like, no, please, stay away, because one guy would get behind you and start pushing, and another guy gets in front and just starts jerking on your bike, and you're like doing. It's so slick. You're doing everything you can just to be upright.
Right.
And all of a sudden, man, you're getting pulled one way, pushed the other, boom, and nobody's happy.
I like the typical one where the guy's behind you picking up the back fender, trying to push you, and you're spinning the throttle, and you're like, my back wheel's not on the ground. Let go, push back down on the rear wheel so I get traction. You're just lifting the the wheel off the ground.
I actually had that happen this weekend as well. So,
come on.
And it's funny because, I mean, you learn this through, especially doing a lot of hard enduro races, and that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on is, I look at the list of the hard enduros you've done, and I've been trying to add a bunch to my resume as well with, doing multiple Romaniacs and doing the U.S. stuff, and signed on, got a bike for Erzberg this year, and like we're going through, and I knew you did a lot of the World Enduro Super Series last year. And I mean, pretty cool stuff, man. I'll go down the list just because I think it's really cool. Just to give some colors. Inka, Peru, Hard Enduro, Yucapacha in Ecuador, Panorama in Romania, 2 Erzbergs, XL Lagares in Portugal, Hixpania, 2 Megawatts, Sea to Sky, Getzen Rodeo in Germany. I mean, that's a list, bro.
Yeah, there's a few for sure.
What have you learned?
Don't ever get started because you'll never want to stop.
It's so good.
It's so addicting. Just going to different countries and seeing the different cultures and the passion behind this sport, which it truly is over there in Europe. And it's cool that it's starting to grow in the U.S. and we have guys like Drew and Will over at American Hard Enduro that are making a big push with it, and the AMA kind of getting on board and seeing the potential and growing it here. But yeah, when you go over to Europe and see like where it started and kind of like the people that are growing it or grew it into what it is now, it's just, I don't know, it's addicting. And yeah, there's something about going out there and just struggling in a different country, and it's like the language and the food and just everything's different, and it's just all a challenge. It's just,
well, yeah, I've noticed it, and I do, man. I love racing with the people from other countries, you know, because I have learned pretty much that fuck is universal, and so is shit, and you know, and shit, fuck shit, and you know, and
it's never good.
It's never good. It all means the same, and just seeing, I guess, the fire of different nationalities, and you know, and you don't want to like cast out stereotypes, but dude, there is no doubt, man. Russians, let it hang loose. I mean, dude, it's like fire it up, man, and launch it forward. So yeah. I can't help it, man. I gotta like Russians. Yeah, man. They just like there's no quit, and I mean, they usually just quit because they're just worn out, because they like basically let it all out of the bag at one time. And but yeah, you're right. I mean, they have so much, you know, the esprit de corps, you know, they really have a passion for it. And that's what makes it so cool, because like if you look at, like, say Supercross, right? You can have the locals who are local legends. You know, they go out to the motocross track and everyone's in awe, and they go to try to make a main event at a Supercross, and they can't even, you know, get in the door for the evening show. And where in the Hard Enduro, you can go out and you can train, and you can essentially sign up for wherever you want to be, and you're going to be in the same program as the top guys in the world.
Yep.
And so that makes it accessible if you're willing to lay it out there.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like you see events like Erzberg where it's guys out there who don't belong out there, but they're like, they have such the passion, and for them it's just money. They get to go be lined up next to Jarvis or Johnny Walker, these superstars, and they're right behind them getting ready to do the prologue. Like, it's just the dream. And over there, it's just, I don't know. There's so many people that are passionate about it. You see the entries at like Megawatt and Erzberg where it's over 1,000 entries, and you're like, this is unreal. Like, how are there that many people willing to spend this kind of money to just go thrash their bodies and their bikes? And yeah, it's just the passion. It's huge.
We talk about it quite a bit, and I can't help but think when you look at the Christopher Columbuses and the Lewis and Clarks and all these iconic figures, people who adventure, Buzz Aldrin, you know, I mean, guys going to the moon. What's going on today? You know, we have people living in social media, etc., people hammered down to jobs, and honestly, you have one life to live. And there's not a lot of avenues for expressing that kind of adventurous spirit. And, you know, you see it some in mountain climbing, and believe me, people are getting it done, you know, whether it's through other extreme sports. But I would say for the most part, most of society is just like pushing along.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's kind of like, you know, I've had the question, you know, people have questioned like, well, why do you do that? You know, what do you like about it? And it's like, well, I could save up money and go on a cruise and spend 7 days of eating and drinking and come off 20 pounds heavier. Like, what did I do?
Right.
I didn't do anything. Listen to some jazz music. Like, sorry, dude.
Right.
You know, but when you're out there, as you know it, and especially the stimulus of the other countries and what's going on is just, your mind is taken over and you're on point, and it's so exciting that, to me, it's almost priceless.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, for me, like, I came back, like, out of high school, I had a full-time job working construction, and I was definitely in that rut to where I was like working every day. It was to the point to where I didn't even want to go ride on the weekends because I was so smoked throughout the week. It was like, I just want to just chill out and relax because I'm spent. I have no energy, and it just, kind of takes away from like the passion that you want. And I mean, not everybody can just get up and leave their job, but I just remember one season going back into it being like, the boss called up and said, "Are you ready to go?" And I'm like, "Nope, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go try to race and live my dream." And I went off and did that. And, I mean, I've been doing it ever since, not professionally, like making a career out of it or a living, but just enough to get by, to go do the races that I want to do. And luckily I've had great sponsors and people behind me that help me pursue my dreams and do the things that I want to do. And, I mean, so many people are in that rut and they don't get the opportunity to experience those things. And I mean, once I did, I just like grabbed onto it and tried to hang on as long as I could and do those things. And I mean, it's hard going back.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it is, it's not just an opportunity. You made the opportunity happen, and you had to make those choices. And, I don't know if anyone's keeping score in life. You could say, well, you've kind of skinned on by, and we're all kind of doing it to some extent, because it's a cost, and it costs time. But I think when you look at it, the way I look at it is, again, it's like I'm at these places, and there's like, right now there's no place I'd rather be. Like, I'm content. And if you put a price on that, I don't know. And it's changed for me, especially like living out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where you drive down the road and you see 20 Teslas in a 10-mile stretch and Ferraris, like multiple every day. And as a young guy, I'd be like, "Oh, that's so cool, man. I want one of those." And honestly, I look at that stuff now and I'm like, that's a cage. Like, yeah, great, you have a Ferrari. Like, what else do you do with your life? I bet it sucks. I bet you play tennis or golf, and that's about the highlight, right? So I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just not into it.
Yeah.
I'd rather, have that stimulus. And, I think back to, like coming around a corner in Romania and there's a cop with his lights on. And I'm like, oh shit, like this guy's pissed. And he's like yelling and like he's got his fist in the air. And coming from America, I'm just like, I'm going to get shot. And then as I got closer, I realized he was cheering me on. Like, go faster, go faster. And I was just like, right on, dude. Gave him a thumb and off I went, and it's just, that's just those experiences, from other places.
Right. Never fly in the U.S. You get over there and they're like number one fan. Don't even know who you are. They're just rooting you on. Yeah. Like, this is so rad.
Yeah. It's so cool. They have such a passion for it. And I think, especially in the hard riding, I don't know. I think on average they got us, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the influence of trials or what, but especially when it comes to slick and nasty stuff, it just seems on average that there's a lot of good riders.
Oh yeah. Especially, when you see the guys coming out of like the UK, well, I guess you look at what they're having to ride every day. Yeah. Just in that shitty weather. It's just raining and wet. And
mossy. And
yeah, it looks miserable, but if the passion's there, they're going to be riding every day. And man, they acquire quite the skill set when they're having to deal with that every day.
Yeah, I've changed my attitude on how I've embraced that. The first year I went out to Romania, I think it was decent all but 2 days. And the 2 days that it rained, it was nasty. Honestly, I didn't go out. I was kind of like, well, I'll just do some bike repair, and I kind of felt like a bitch because Paul Bolton was training and still does. He's riding with two young guys, Suf Sella and Suk Sella. Mm-hmm. And Suf Sella's, I mean, he's 15, I think going on 16, and he's a beast. He finished silver class in Romaniacs at 15. This kid is, he's something special. Oh, yeah. So when it rained, they're out there. And I was thinking, all right, well, I didn't go. So we go back to Romania this year. Well, it rained, piss down rain every day about 2 days. But I told myself, I was like, I need to work on this. So when it rained, it just galvanized me to go and hit it. Like when it's nasty and muddy and horrible, that's when I want to be out. And I transferred in the United States too. When I was home in Montana, we get enough nice weather that you can usually wait till the storm passes over and, then go riding. And no, it was like, if it was nasty and raining, I was out on my trials bike on the moss covered rocks because that's when it was nasty, slick. And if you weren't disciplined about your technique, you're going to be doing the turtle on the back of your shell, right. With your legs in the air. Oh, yeah. So again, it's kind of trying to mimic that, the UK deal. Yeah. Being wet and nasty all the time.
Yeah, work on your weaknesses.
For sure.
Being down here in Arizona, the wet slick is definitely a weakness of mine as well, which it's a bummer that half of these races end up turning that way, but yeah, it's all good. Yeah. Hopefully get into a spot where we can train that a little more.
Well, Texas has always been great. I love the people down there, and they definitely have some enthusiasm. For sure. So it's always fun to go there. But I tell you, man, the weather, driving out there, it was misting rain and it was freezing on the windshield. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be rough.
It was.
It was nasty. It was nasty, dude. Unreal. So what was kind of your overview of the whole thing?
It was good. I was pumped to see the turnout. With it being like an AMA series now, and it is a qualifier for TKO, it's definitely drawing more attention, which is awesome. We got a couple guys from overseas, Mario and Wade Young from South Africa. It was cool to see those guys come over, and I think it just helps make it like that much more of like a big deal. And so
gives us some flavor for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, just like racing, it just makes it more interesting. Like when you have more top guys kind of battling it out, it's always awesome. But yeah, it was good. And with the weather, I mean, I know we were all hoping with it pushed back 2 months that we were going to get a little better weather, but I've done it all 3 years and it's cold and raining. And I mean, I haven't seen a change there, but to be honest, it's good for an extreme race. We won an extreme race and that adds to it. So I know as much as we didn't enjoy the weather, I think it added and made the event better in what it is. And then turnout was good. I got my ass kicked, so I think it was a good event. I was pumped.
Well, the hard times are always make it more memorable, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like if it was just like really nice conditions and you just kind of cruise through it, I don't even think it really banks in your memory. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I did rev limiter, whatever. Yeah. You think back at it and you're like, God, that was cold. God, that was nasty, slimy, hard, brutal.
Yeah.
Took my bike and tore the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's right. It's cool having the overseas guys. I got a chance to ride a couple days with Mario Roman and like we've met a few times before, but actually, get some time with those guys. We swapped hats, so
I see that.
So I got the 7.4 I'm rocking.
Right.
I had to give Mario some props. So
super cool guy.
Super
really
cool
nice,
guy.
Yeah.
And a great hard enduro rider. He ended up with third place and in a hard fought with Cody Webb, Wade Young, and Mario shooting it out.
Yeah.
You got some legit dudes for sure. And I looked on the times that Wade Young had the fastest first lap, and
Which race?
of the final moto.
Really?
Yeah, he had the fastest first. Actually, he was ahead of Cody. And
After
then-
the first lap?
Yeah, or during.
Huh.
I mean, during most of the first lap. Then Cody got by him, and then his third lap was faster too. But somewhere in there was a 5-6 minute bottleneck, or something got caught up. And I think that's the only hard thing with these races. And like for the rev limiter I mean, Mark Koch and Mark Weeks, I mean, they do an awesome job. I mean, as far as the setup, the place, all the infrastructure, those guys work their asses off and put on a great race, and it gets better every year. But again, I think we have to realize that these things are refined, you have issues with single lines, and definitely saw that in, the final, even with the top guys, is that if, the first few guys get away clean and they get through, the first couple guys that bottleneck on a one-line situation essentially holds up the entire train, and the train stops, and yet the first few guys are still moving. So, and it's a short track course that they come back around, and when they come back around, the train stops again to let those guys through, or try to let them go. And it just keeps kind of putting everybody back. So I don't know exactly. I probably just there needs to be multiple lines, I think, and to have less choke points.
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard. That's kind of hard to do, but I think it's doable. But you look at it like, look, you've done Erzberg twice. This year is a 25th anniversary. People don't realize that 25th anniversary. They've done 25 friggin' years of Erzbergs. That's crazy.
Yeah.
At rev limiters at 3.
Yep.
It's like, and I just hope that we keep up the momentum, and everyone I've seen getting better. Like if you look at it's on the AMA Hard Enduro list. I think it's one of the great. I mean, it's a big mountain race, the Sticks and Stones Hard Enduro in Kellogg, Idaho. Greg Ragsdale puts that on, and every year he gets better. They get better at creating the machine, and it's a more efficiently run race. The course is better. They're marked better. And I think we're just moving that way. And again, I think they're on their fourth year. This will be their fourth year of it. So again, I think the development will continue, and hopefully, I think you're a great resource. I mean, just the list of races that I put off, and you see these long established marquee races, and it gives you definitely an understanding and a viewpoint of what works for a race, for sure. And like Romaniacs, they're at it was the 15th year anniversary this year, and Martin Fernandez, he has it down, man.
Yeah.
But
one of the best
for
sure.
But in a Romaniacs, they have 400 people working. 400 workers,
and it's not like just for like a month.
Yeah,
like
it's year round.
Yeah, course workers out there burning in trail and laying out the course months and months prior to it. Skinner's out there. Oh yeah,
that wild beast.
Right.
Guy rocks the mullet.
Yeah.
We'll have to put a picture up of him at some point.
Yeah.
He had a blonde.
He kills it.
He had a blonde mullet with, I think he had colored the sides like green and gold, like Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some great side photos,
Yeah.
profiles of the super mullet.
Yeah, he's pretty wild. Those track managers from Romaniacs, they're no joke.
No.
It's funny. I'll see him at a race, and he'll be on the most clapped out KTM and be like, what's he going to do on that? And the dude will finish, and you're like, what just happened? Like, I thought the bike wasn't going to make it 100 yards, and he kills it.
Oh, yeah. And there's another guy, too. He does rental bikes, Red Roo Adventures. Big shout out to Shane Moss. He's a nutty Aussie, and I mean, he's the type of guy, total Aussie. You see him at the pub, close the pub down, and then go out the next day, and just rip it, dude. Like, where did he go? I mean, it's just like, I don't know, man. He's got the skills.
Like 90s motocross.
Yeah, man. The guy just like, he just lays it down. It's like, it's impressive. Here I am, taking care of diet and workout and all these things. And I'm just like, I was scratching my head, dude, just going,
what just happened?
Yeah, I'd like to have a little of that, just a little bit, I'm getting there, but it seems like it's a lot harder. So maybe I should get a better drinking program. Maybe that would help.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Build some tolerance.
Shane, if you're out there, we'll have to do a pub training session maybe, and see if you can get me into the zone.
Get out a month early.
Yeah, I heard a rumor, and I'm not quite. I don't know if it's true, but somebody told me there's very few people who've successfully climbed the last Red Bull Romaniacs hill. Very few people have successfully got to the top, and there's a lot of people, the top 10 guys that have never made it cleanly up, or just made it up through the arches. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me this year that Shane was down there drinking beers in the sun the entire time, and without gear put on a helmet and jumped in, because it's Romania and you can do anything,
right?
And essentially got on a bike and climbed it like twice. So I'm not sure if that's true, but that's what I heard.
We'll have to dig into that.
We're gonna have to dig, because if it is that true, I probably will take Shane up on the drinking lessons.
Right?
Honestly.
The fear goes out the window, and it's just commitment all the way up.
You got to commit. And this year, honestly, I had a pretty good run at it. I had a plan, because you have a climb with like a big G out, and then it goes like
a big old face.
Yeah, then it goes vertical, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna suck up. I'm kind of gonna suck up the face, and then get the tire back to the ground and let it rip. And I had good pull coming up to that face, and I saw that vertical face looks like it's 100 feet of just vertical.
Right, pass vert.
Yeah.
I'm going right back out.
Oh, dude, I hit it and I'm like, well, I'm going for it, and as it's coming up to me, I'm like, I'm going right. I'm like, no.
All one motion, just.
I did pretty much. I just kind of I aborted. I veered right and got through. But quite honestly, if I knew what was coming next, I would have hit it.
I mean, once you hit the top?
Yeah. Well, what happened
is... Or where you went off?
Well, if you go off, I went off on the... I don't know if it was this... It was the highest line or the second highest.
Did they have two cutoffs?
Yeah, they have
watch the race.
Yeah, they have three cutoffs.
Okay.
And I think I made it to either the mid or the highest. I'm not quite sure. But once you cut off, you have to go take a longer route that has more climbs. And as I came down, I'm like, all right, well, I got through this. I got up pretty high. And I'm like, all right, I should be good. And they had the one where you drop off and it's inverted. And if you see the video, there's a dude who just endos hard. I mean, like a free fall endo of like 30 feet. Like endo Casmasho. And
straight to his head.
Oh, and I saw that. He actually went before me. And I just hey, no matter what, I'm putting my balls over the fender and I'm keeping that wheel straight no matter what, because it went to another ledge. Mm-hmm. And even with that, it was like barely. And so I did that. And then you go down the bottom and it was straight up, total vertical lip to the top. And then there was maybe like a 10-foot cut trail. And then it went straight up and went vertical again. And to get to scrub that, to go complete vertical, land, and then do another big one. Like the first one was no problem. The second one was gnarly. And dudes are just trying and trying and trying. And I was like, man, if I knew that was coming, I just would have anteed up and tried the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you walk any of this? Or I've never been, so I don't know really the layout. But
that'd probably be a smart thing to do. Because
is the pit close to the finish?
No, it's not. But but the finish is probably 5 miles out of town. So you could definitely go there. And I'm sure you could actually try it. That'd probably be smart.
Right.
I thought
someone
about
else's jersey and helmet.
I thought about it. Well, I think it's just, again, it's Romania. So you kind of ride wherever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I would like to, I figure this year, we're going to
go for it.
We're going to go for it.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you got some time on the trials bike now. So
yeah,
figure out how to soak things up and get the weight back. And
yeah, it's working. I'm still taking a bit of skin off. I'll tell you that.
Right. I think it takes a while before you get past that point.
It does. But it's good. It's been great. And I notice it. I definitely notice it in the hard enduro of just being a lot more effective and a lot more thoughtful with the bike, of getting the traction back to the ground and how to weight the bike in the right situations. And I think, like this situation, I mean, it enabled me to, kind of come through and yeah, it was pretty cool. Especially just kind of being around, you guys, helps is, you're riding with guys that push it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm no trials rider, but I'll do some sketchy stuff every once in a while, but
yeah,
not all the time, not like some.
Well, you guys have those. There's a couple, the infamous hard enduro loops of Rio Verde.
Yeah. Somebody made those a while ago. I'm not sure who, but
yeah, they're scary, dude.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, Mike Dam took me out there for the first time, and jeez, man, you roll off like 6-8 inch wide, and it drops inverted for like 30 feet and lands off camber on other rocks. And dude, I stood up there for like 4 or 5 minutes, just like with full butt pucker, going, what? First, it's like, what am I doing here? But then it's like, how did I even get here? And like you start, I mean,
how do I go back?
Yeah, like questioning life. You're like, well, they just did it, but this just seems stupid. Like,
for what?
You would never have it in. Okay, Romaniacs maybe. You definitely gold class Romaniacs. You could have something like that, but you could never have that in any even hard enduro race, because literally you'd just
probably be like a huge liability.
Line up the hospital,
Yeah.
The stretchers, because I think it would look like a buffalo jump. The bikes would start piling up down there, and they just keep coming, and then people are getting cooked because they're sandwiched in between the bikes, and more bikes just keep coming, and eventually the bike stack gets high enough that you can just kind of ride that down as the transition. But yeah, literally, man, it's like I'm looking at it and I'm just like, this just doesn't seem right. And but the good side of this is you get through that fear and you drop them all. And then so we did that for the first, and drops a few of these gnarly things, and then you get to the top, and it's like, if that wasn't good enough with you sick bastards, it's like, all right, let's time it.
Yeah.
and I don't know what it is. As soon as you put a clock on it, it changes everything, because all of a sudden you're like, all right, we got a clock on it now.
Yeah, there's no setting up really.
Yeah.
Stop, think about it.
No.
Just roll up and go.
Because you're on the clock.
Yep.
I think it's the same with the workouts. We do a lot of the high intensity plyometric workouts, and we do them all timed. And it's funny, like you could say, oh, we'll do X amount of sets, and you can do that, and yeah, you'll get through them. But it's not the same when you put a time limit on it.
Yeah.
When you have a clock ticking, I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, it's like, it's time to get things done.
Right.
So I try and do everything timed.
It's awesome. It's kind of what like sets the bar.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, you just need to know to go into it and know that the focus and the confidence is there to just trust your ability and not just roll up and just, what do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, having the clock and then even, something to judge yourself for the next time, or push yourself. Like, this is where I set the bar. It can be done. Now I need to beat it, because before then, I was striving to beat it. So
it matters. And I think
definitely helps push the edge.
Yeah. And it's great you guys have done stuff like that, because for me, for example, you go out to Texas and there are some gnarly downhills. Like they weren't super long, but they were super slick off camber, and there's trees at the bottom. So if you go a little off course, like you're smacking a tree.
Yeah.
And, this is kind of sketchy, but compared to the stuff we're dropping out here, it kind of looks small.
Right. So that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Is to make your training a lot harder than the race day.
So you'd see it and like, oh, this is really gnarly and ugly, but tell you what, I've seen a lot scarier shit than this.
Yeah.
So I guess that's good.
Depends on where you go. Sometimes you get to a race and you're like, who thought this was okay?
Yeah. We had it was 2000 or year before last, 2017. I don't know, like 8 or 9 of the top gold class, like top guys went to Martin. Just said, listen, we're all about the show, but you're gonna get somebody killed.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and Martin's just kind of like, it's the track. It's like,
it's rideable. It's been done.
Yeah,
go do it
by somebody.
Yeah,
I guess. So yeah, it's pretty wild stuff for sure.
Yeah, I remember seeing, what was it, David Knight, like, I'm done. This is stupid. I'm pulling out. And it was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on out in the mountains of Romania? Like, what is so scary that these guys are like,
yeah. David Knight goes, and I remember that. He's just like, this is stupid, and I'm just done.
Yeah. You're like, just blows my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, do I really want to go over there and do that? Gold class? Like,
they keep pushing the level. And
right.
And it's literally borders on insanity. You see these things, and Martin's really good at that. Like, I think, for example, you end up racing anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day, racing hard enduro for 4 off-road days. You have the prologue day to set up the starts, and almost every time when you're just about mentally and physically done and you're out 8 hours and you're thinking, all right, I got to be close to the finish, to seeing the Red Bull Arch, and you'll come up to something like the biggest. I mean, it's funny there. I mean, you can't see the top of the hill. Like, everything as far as you can see is a gnarly uphill grade as far as you can see, until you can't see, that it just disappears into the trees. There's no end to it. And like, I remember one of those, it was my first year, and it was the first off-road day, and I was smoked, dude. I mean, it was a fight of my life. I was like, I don't want to time out, and I just keep pushing, and get up this. Actually, I went up the first part, and a friend of mine, Kevin Miller and Nate Lundquist, they were there up in the trees, and you can see the way they're standing on the side hill. It's like 40 degrees. And I got up over a rock ledge, and it just wasn't enough. I'm like, I'm going to go back. So I went all the way back down and had another go and did a couple ticky-tack pivots. And that whole section, it was just like unbelievable. That was the first 20% of the hill. And I got past those guys. It was like a 20-minute climb. Mm-hmm. Like after that. And and I think he throws those in like towards the end, just because it sorts people out.
Yeah, wear you down.
Yeah,
when you're already smoked.
Yeah, breaks people. It's brutal, but I tell you what, man, you get some food in you, and you go away for a couple months, and you like dream about it.
Right, just getting pushed. Yeah,
yeah, and just seeing that, that different stuff, and it's just crazy. Or jumping out of a building. Jumping off a 2-story blind, building, or dropping through a building floor where there's just a hole in the concrete, and they built like kind of a transition ramp,
right?
And with rubble and rebar,
Yeah, you're like, exactly. Would never fly over here, but
no,
they get away with it.
Yeah, it's a condemned warehouse, and why not jump off the second floor and it's good fun. But I think that's kind of the allure of the hard enduro and the adventure of just taking your bike out there and seeing what you're capable of.
Right. Yeah, and I'm just I keep wanting to see one of those pop up here in the States one of these days. One of those long, grueling races. But I know King of the Motos was kind of getting in there a bit with a longer day, but and GPS, but. Hopefully we'll see somebody jump in there and get something like that going.
Yeah, I think it has to be GPS based. I think like Rev Limiter does a great job. I think it's kind of, the final is a little more Euro based, like TKO. By condensing it, it gives a lot of spectator points. So, again, like I love the, like in regular enduro and off. I don't know, love them. I mean, they're fun. I definitely like the hard enduro more. But if you go to like an enduro race, it's an 80-mile race. Typically people leave in a cloud of dust and they come back 3 hours in a cloud of dust. So for the spectators, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, really.
It's fun to ride. Watching. It's fun to ride, but it's not something you want to watch. And even like Romaniacs, even though I think the first day this year was just insane. It was like 120 miles, 160 Ks or something. It was insane. Mm-hmm. And, but, they publish enough spectator points, so people can go and set up and watch the riders and then move off to the next and kind of, travel around and see a lot of it. But, when you condense them kind of like TKO and Rev Limiter, you have the ability to get a lot more fans in there. I think the challenge is checkpoints and having checkpoints, or again, the GPS is an incredible way.
Right.
Because
I agree.
For example, the Romaniacs, they'll take the top guys and they take their GPS cards, they plug them in,
track log,
and it overlays over the track.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody cut the track, it's plain as day. It's like, you lay it over the other one.
Right.
And you can see if somebody got lost, if they took off the wrong way and came back.
Right.
Well, obviously they're not cutting the course. But unfortunately, there are people that cut the course.
Yep.
It happens. And, I think that's something that has to be done, for sure.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see it here soon.
Yeah. Yeah, there's talk about the GPS. Again, it was cool, the Rev Limiter definitely being kind of the first one to kick off, the year's AMA Hard Enduro.
Yep. With
King of Moto's gone. And it's so unfortunate because King of Moto's last year, incredible format. And I think the last day was 84 miles or something like that of hard enduro.
I was going to say this last year, that final race, that was a long one. And I think that's like the longest hard enduro we really have here. Yeah. Or had here. So
and that's
the stuff that I enjoy.
I'm interested in that as well. Because I think it does both. It gives enough spectator points that you can have the people there. And also it gives the legs that endurance really matters. Mm-hmm. Being in shape really matters. And when you get out at that range, I mean, that's adventure.
Yeah.
Because I bet on that, like you're not leaving your tool pack back. And I'm pretty sure I'd have made sure that 8mm was in my pack.
Right. Yeah.
When you're going out for 84 miles.
Right.
Out into
a couple gels or snacks or something.
Yeah. Exactly. Fire starter, space blanket.
Yeah.
Maybe a book.
Yeah.
Whatever. But no, and hopefully, I guess there's some talk of maybe somebody bringing that back. It would be great. I think it's a great location. It's definitely a real unique type of environment, different, and it's kind of cool. Like I think you've seen it from doing everything you do. Take rocks for example. Like how many different types of rocks and surfaces and slicknesses are there? I mean,
you see them all out there.
Yeah, they have their own.
Wild.
They have their own flavor. There's rocks that have traction, don't have traction, granite, limestone, rocks with uber traction, rocks that look like they have traction, have no traction.
Yeah.
Rocks that sweat, TKO.
Right.
Like the rocks will literally.
Stuff's unreal there.
They'll just sweat from the temperature differential with the humidity. There's sweating rocks, and those ones are not grippy.
No, don't hit those with your front wheel.
No. There was one section last year where actually the sun had came out and it had pissed down rain, inches of rain, and it was a creek crossing. And for some reason I was feeling confident. Body position I thought was on point, and I'm just like, I'm gonna ace this. And I mean, that's totally confident because I remember that, and it's like definitely not always like that. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hammer this, and man, I was like a third of the way in it, and I just ate it hard. I mean, It was so quick. I was down so quick. I was like, So much for that.
Yeah. I think we all know that well there.
Confidence, not so much.
No.
I had it going in until I ate it, for sure.
Had it till you didn't.
That's right. It was pretty good. So this year we've got. Are you gonna try to hit? Obviously, you're already qualified for TKO. Are you looking at doing any of the other ones like Silver Mountain or any of those? Or
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, with opening up a shop, it's been tricky trying to kind of coordinate how to leave and go do these races. But yeah, I want to try to hit as many as I can. That Silver Mountain, that one, after hearing about it last year, I think. It was just like, actually, yeah, I think it was last year because I saw Keith Curtis was there, Tristan Hart, and I was like, what is this? And you said it's been going on for a couple of years. Yeah. And I think the riders going to it prior to that weren't really into hard enduro, so I didn't think that it was a hard enduro. And so, I don't know, it wasn't really on my radar until they turned it into, or they added it to the whole qualifier deal, and seeing the guys who showed up last year, I was like, oh, what is this?
Oh, yeah.
Let me look into it a little more. And then the feedback that I've heard from like the last year or so, or even the location, it sounds rad. It's at a ski resort. You take the gondola up, and it sounds super cool.
It's got a gondola for all the spectators. If you want to get up, it's a 3.2 mile gondola ride one way, 6.4 miles of cable.
Yeah.
And it takes you to the top of this big ass mountain. And it is the only one in the U.S. that is a true big mountain race. And you go on the north side of these slopes, they had to kind of just make kind of a trail, like they had to cut them in. And for example, the first year, second year, guys go into the trees. If you blow off your line, you're gone. Like your race is over. I mean, you're never getting back up. It's that steep, and it's just green and trees. So maybe you'll work your way to a logging road somewhere, down somewhere. But pretty much as far as being competitive, your race is kind of done. And so there's a lot of sections like that. So it isn't like as much as like holy cow. Like as far as like giant drop-offs or stuff like that. But it's really technical mountain riding.
Yeah, hit your line.
Got to stick your lines. You got some gnarly climbs, some gnarly rock. But at that time of year, the snow is just melted off. There's usually no dust. And super spectator friendly. They keep 3 to 4 chairlifts running so people can get around the mountain to go see all these different spots, and then they can watch it from the air as well, which is really cool. So there's like one of the descents is like 1,000 vertical feet. So it's like, by the time you get to the bottom riding it, like, your legs are starting to like, almost starting to cramp because, you've been standing for a long time. Yeah. You've been descending for like, 3/4 of a mile. Yeah. At a vertical pace, and then they keep each year adding more and more sections to it, and it's gnarly for sure. And then you've got, and this really has like a like a mountain village venue, because since the gondola comes down to the bottom and everybody parks, camps, and they have a full water park, like a whole indoor water park, and this really cool hotel, everything's right there. So it's like almost like a festival. And it's one of the first ones in the US where I've seen all the podiums 1 through 5 full. Like C riders, B riders, A riders, pro.
Perfect.
Full podiums, all 5 positions, and they do a really good job. They make some custom, big trophies that are legit. And it's cool. It's definitely, even with all the European stuff, it's closer, to more of a, European style race. Huh. So that was a good one to see get, to the AMA. And if you come out, I live in the area, roughly. It's a big part of the world. So come out. Well, we'll have a place for you to camp out.
All right. Yeah. I would like to make like a week-long trip out of it or something. Just be good to kind of get acclimated to the area and I'm sure it's at elevation, so
Yep.
that and kind of adapt to the riding style up there.
Yeah.
A little different than all this grippy granite we have down here.
Yeah. Super, super cool riding.
Yeah.
Super cool riding. Yeah. It's kind of like the freestyle isn't as much down there just because it's so dense. The tree, it's so steep and the trees are so big and it's so bushy, but thousands of miles of trail.
Perfect.
And just, yeah, it's cool. Cool place. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I think that is, when is that? It's like the second week in June or something.
Yeah, I think it was, I thought it was not too far after Erzberg.
Yeah.
It
It's
was
like
that one, and then Last Dog. I'm not sure where Last Dog is this year, because usually Last Dog's in June as well.
Yeah, all I know is we've got Erzberg is the first days of June, like June
Last
3rd.
couple days of May going into June.
Yeah, 2nd, 3rd, something like that. So then I remember on a schedule, so I can hit Erzberg, come back, and then hopefully if I'm still in one piece, do Silver Mountain. So
Yep.
that'd be kind of a fun deal, and yeah, just keep progressing towards TKO. It'd be nice to do some of the back east. You know, you got like with the Mad Moose, Tough Like Roar, Battle of the Goats.
Yeah, I don't know if Mad Moose is going to be going on this year.
Okay. I remember that from last year.
Yeah, that one happened last year and the year before, but then I think they're taking a break or something. The club is that put it on.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Tough Like Roar. I think there's one called Fallen Timbers, maybe in Ohio.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Battle of the Goats. I did that one last year.
That I have to say, just hands down,
That was rough.
that probably has to be the best name.
Battle of the Goats. Yeah.
Battle of the Goats.
Dude,
You can do a lot with that.
yeah, that one was no joke. And you've been to TKO. You know the humidity back there is
Stifling.
brutal. And yeah, you get into those trees and the humidity's there and no breeze, and you're just like, you just want to rip your shirt off or jersey and just, even the helmet. I remember one spot I was like so hot, like burning up, I like had to undo my boots, and I think I took my jersey off because I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm like burning up. I'm so hot.
Yeah.
But it was insane.
Yeah, I remember we were in the Moto 2. We ran into each other at TKO, and I was actually just prior to running into you. I think you were stopped, had your helmet off, and I was literally thinking to myself, will I pass out before I die? Because literally I thought my head it was so hot that I didn't know if I was just going to fall over and pass out and then wake up later, or I would just die without passing out. So yeah, that's brutal. I don't know.
It's unreal.
I don't know how you'd acclimatize. I asked some of the people that live down there, like, this is amazing. I'm like, what do you do in the summer? And a couple of them, they look at me and they go, well, we don't go outside.
We don't go race TKO. Bunch of idiots.
No kidding. And I tell you, I went to TKO a couple years ago to do some training with Charlie Roberts out there. He's kind of been teaching trials 20, 30 years. I think he's in his 60s. Still gets around on a trials bike, I'll tell you that. And November was beautiful. Like, temperature was great. Everything was great. So why don't you have TKO in November? That would be great, because you want to die. I was going to sleep in my Sprinter van, and lady Catherine she kind of runs a lot of the show there, you know, as far as registrations and the whole place. And I called her up. I'm like, hey, Catherine. And I kind of had an idea what she was going to say, but I was like, you know, do you think it'd be, you know, kind of, you know, not too bright to sleep in a Sprinter van, you know, without AC? She's just like, honey, you die.
Yeah.
So Hampton Inn,
Right.
AC, it's the way to go.
Yeah. I've heard about, I've talked to some guys and like trainers and stuff saying, like, as far as trying to prepare for a race like that, when you get into town, like, try your best not to have the AC on, because every time the body goes from that hot humidity into AC and back and forth, it just puts the body into shock. And he's like, if you can try to have the room, just windows open, no AC, and the car don't have AC, try to adapt to that temperature. I mean, yeah, it's going to be miserable, but
Mitch, I think you've lost your mind.
yeah. This is not my idea. This is what guys are telling me. Because racing, you're always trying to find the edge.
No, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% on.
I'm not saying I do it.
Yeah, my buddy, one of my best friends, he's an orthopedic surgeon from West Virginia, and I was asking him about it, because he was a stud athlete, football and all that stuff growing up, and it's in that hot, humid country. And I told him about how I felt, and he just kind of like laughed it off, like, "Yeah, you get used to it." I'm like, "Really? I don't know. I don't know that I will." But he said the same thing. He's like, "You have to go and acclimate, go and participate in it." And I think you're right. If you're there for a short period of time, if you're in that AC and you pop out,
you just start sweating and losing all your water. Yeah. It's crazy.
See, but I sweat anyway, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. You see those GNCC guys? They have those guys that were there had those giant fans. They're that big cowling fan.
Yeah.
And they just sit outside with that thing blowing on them.
Even motocross, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. That may not be it. I'm showing up with a fan. I guarantee.
I'll be parked right next to you.
No doubt, dude. Well, I just see those guys. They just like lay down in the lawn chair, and take their shirt off because you're just soaking. So that's like the human radiator.
Yeah. Be careful. Watch out for those chiggers.
Chiggers?
Yeah.
I heard about the chiggers.
Don't strip down and jump in the grass.
No, I thought it was too hot for chiggers.
Oh no.
I don't know. I didn't get any. I did get a 3rd-degree burn though. That was massive.
Oh yeah, I think you were telling me about that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was either my pipe was burning through my pants, and I had full under leggings underneath my knee pads, and full moto pants. But since I was completely soaked, it essentially steamed. Didn't burn the pants. Yeah. But 3rd-degree burn, like about the size of a softball. It was so painful. And I had that from Moto 1 on Sunday. So I raced Moto 2 with it. And between
that'd have been miserable.
Between wanting to die, feeling like my head was going to explode, and my leg being in massive pain, I was like, we'll press on. But I can't say that I really was too excited about making it to Moto 3.
Right.
And then I got to drive sitting on it for 3 days back home.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't cool.
No.
It wasn't cool. But going back,
right.
I found this, a Cherubies makes, I think it's to protect your pipe from getting scratched. It's like a silicone kind of like pipe condom.
On the silencer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has 2 zip ties. And I remember when I first saw them, I thought, it was kind of lame. But now I look at it as kind of like a silicone cooking mitt to keep from cooking. Because, sometimes when you're on the back, when you're doing the pivoting, sometimes, you're squeezing the back of the bike and you're on the back and you're on the back of that thing. And I think it was either that or I was going to fall off a boulder into a creek, and I could feel it burning, but I wasn't going to fall into the creek. So I just kind of kept squeezing, and
yeah,
I paid the price.
Yeah. I've had something like that similar happen as well.
Like bike falling on you? Or
no, just that the exhaust thing. You get so far off the back that your crotch is basically right where the silencer's coming out, and you're having to give throttle because you need the wheel loaded up and ready to go, and you're trying to flick the bike around, and it just right where you don't want it.
So do you think you like a tinfoil cup or something, or like a NASA jockstrap? Because I've been there too.
I'm just trying to find a way to get myself out of that situation. Maybe more trials, right? Feet on the pegs and just float the front end up instead of having to get off the back.
No, but sometimes you have to get off the back, and I got to admit, with because you ever get the pipe rings on your crotch?
Yeah.
From the oil?
And the groin, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where'd that come from?
What have you been doing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I get lonely sometimes. And, there's a hot pipe right there, So, life gets rough sometimes. Oh man, it's funny some of that stuff that happens, or ending up when it's super slick, ending up underneath your bike. I've done that where somehow I'm underneath the skid plate, and I've gone down the hill from underneath my bike. That's a Romaniacs thing.
Yeah.
So
it's
slick.
Steep, yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to get across something, or you get off the bike and you slide
underneath it.
Yeah, you slide underneath it. And like all of a sudden it's like going through a trapdoor. It's like the bike was standing there. All of a sudden I've gone under the bike, gone. The bike's still up there. I'm down here. I don't know exactly what happened.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of rough. It's funny. We get a lot of people react to the podcast, and there's a lot of interest in the hard enduro stuff. People, I've had everything from people seeing clips and they're like, what do you find enjoyable about that? You're like, well, it's kind of one of those things. It's, that which does not kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
And you have that, is what it is, I guess. Mm-hmm. But there's something to it, it's, you get through that. And it's funny. I think, like talking with, some of the younger guys that ask questions, I almost look at it as like a toolbox. It seems like the people that do well in hard enduro particularly are the ones that have the bigger toolbox. And by a toolbox, I mean, you've been in more crazy situations.
Right. So
when you're in crazy situations, all these little things we're laughing about, well, they're lessons. Like you learn.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, hey, okay, last time I tried this happened. Maybe I'll try something.
It'll work out so well.
Yeah, maybe I'll try something just a little bit different and see what happens. And so then, inadvertently, you come to a situation again, and those are the ones that left marks on you and left burns on you. I think they resonate.
Right.
Maybe I'm not going to try that one.
Yeah.
What's like one of the more goofier things that's happened to you?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I mean, yeah, as you know, there's some weird shit that goes on. You're like, how did this happen? I mean, just this past weekend, I went over the bars coming down one of the creeks. Yeah. Stuffed the wheel right into a rock. It sent me over, and I was right next to a tree. And the ass end kicked, and the back fender / seat caught the tree. And so it stopped midway, threw me over, but my legs were still wrapped up in the bike. And I'm like hanging there, and I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I can't get out. And I actually have a big old bruise because the side of me hit the tree as well. And I was like, somebody's got to come over and help me because I can't get out of this. And I'm like trying to get my legs out, and it's just such a weird situation. You like wish somebody was like there filming. Yeah. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I've definitely become cognizant of, on a lot of those descents, of being very careful that if you do have a tree close, to make sure you clear that peg. To have that peg stick into a tree on one of those downhills, and the same, it'll like launch you. It'll stop the bike, and all your momentum goes forward, and it's like you're just doing the, the Superman, crawling, crawling through the sky.
Yeah, or like being out here in Arizona, or at least in Phoenix, not so many trees out in the desert, but you get on some of those off cambers where you're riding along and you want to make sure the peg doesn't catch that rock to high side you down. Yeah. You're like, I've had that happen a couple of times. And you're like, I think I got it. And then the peg catches and it stands the bike up and pitches you off, and it's like nowhere to go. And then you're just cartwheeling down.
It's amazing just the fine line of balance of, on that high side on some of those like really vertical pivots. And it's just such a fine line. And it's so wide. And I think that's one of the addictive things, because if you hit it right with the right balance, it's so cool. But if you're just off a little bit, it sucks.
Yeah, consequences are high sometimes.
Yeah, it's kind of, and hoping you don't roll into a cholla plant. And I saw a guy this year doing one of these drops on an off camber, and he had his goggles off, took a cholla right to the face.
Yeah, we were on that ride. It was Eric.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah. We do so many rides, man. I kind of get lost. Right? Was that brutal or what?
Yeah.
Blood and everything.
Yeah, we were just talking about that today. It was crazy.
Oh, man.
Cholla to the face.
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good. And, and it's funny because, like, just talking about, like, learning things. So at all costs, everyone's, and, I'll do it too. A lot, it's like there becomes a point sometimes where you have to do the Graham Jarvis and put your goggles on backwards. But I tell you, I do a lot of work to try to keep my goggles good, especially on downhills, because you start talking about endoing face first. when you're going into briars and bushes and sticks, face first, no eye protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, it's
So-
kind of screwed.
I think about that, and especially
Yeah.
like watching you guys pull it out of his face.
Right?
Well, those things
Like
are
it-
barbed too, you know.
Yeah, they don't like to come out.
Yeah.
Oh man, and they're painful. And I'm pretty sure there's some poison in them because I've hit them many times. And yeah, when you pull them out, it feels like you got arthritis or something in your joints.
Yeah, like
Yeah, it's fucked up.
it's funny when you have the this is like Arizona vernacular, where you guys are so used to this. He got a bunch of it in his shoulder and his arm, and you guys are just a matter of fact going, so has the feeling come back in your arm because the paralysis of the poison? Like if you get a bunch in you, it like shuts down like some of your neural control of your arm. So there's something in there.
Yeah,
You know, and
not good.
I don't know why that is, but yeah, that stuff's brutal. I tell you, I have no shame at all because there's some of these trails out here that go into like the big cholla patches that, you know, really they weave through them, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I take it down a couple notches through those.
Yeah, no, me too.
I just have no interest of meeting that stuff.
Yeah,
But then I always wonder, because you see them and you'll see the ones where obviously somebody tagged them. Because there's
yeah.
like 30 laying on the ground. And you're like,
it's usually on a sharp turn, and you just see them scattered.
yeah, you're like, who did that? You know, because
Somebody had a bad day.
yeah, because someone's cruising around with like, 8 or 9 cones stuck in them. Yeah, those things are brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric, it was Eric, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't like get one through his eye, man. 'Cause
Oh, I
they were
know.
like stuck in his cheek, and
Everywhere but his eye,
Yeah.
pretty much. That was nasty,
he was pretty tough about it though.
right?
I gotta give him credit. I was up there going, oh man, that just looks brutal.
Right.
Yeah, scary stuff, man. Cool, man. Well, shoot, we've got you've got the Hard Enduro Outfitters going. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You guys are doing the Sherco bikes,
Yep.
and you're riding the Sherco this year.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, how's that going?
It's been going good. Yeah, I made the switch at the beginning of last year. Actually, my first race on the Sherco was in the Roof of Africa in 2017. We flew out there, and that was the first time I tried the bike. And it was good. It was actually an older model. When I got home, I got the newer.
Yeah, but it was a 302 stroke.
Yeah. And it was good, but yeah, I mean, since then, I think that was maybe a 16, and now I'm on the 19, and I've been kind of on all of them, and it's crazy how much I like the new bike so much more, and it's been such a good bike, and especially for like what we're doing.
Everything, just suspension and engine, or both, or mostly suspension.
Engine too. I don't know what it was. It was just going when I went over to Europe this year. I had the factory edition 18 is basically what the 2019 turned into.
Yep.
But the 2019 got KYB suspension. But when I was over there, I got that factory edition, and I was comparing that to my 18 6 days, which there were two different bikes, and it was, I don't know what it was, but they did change the engine a bit. But I love that bike over there. And it was funny because every time I came home, it was like downgrading. I was like, come on, this is what I have at home. Which it was still a good bike, but it was just 1 year. Like the upgrades on it made a difference, just like all bikes.
Yeah.
And I was pumped on it. And the 19, I got that a few months ago, and that's got the KYB. And I actually have a 450 as well, and got the suspension done by my sponsor, the Ride Shop, and they
Johnny.
Yeah.
Kind of like Johnny. They do a good job down there.
Yeah.
Sarge, Johnny, and the crew.
Right. Yeah. He got my 450 all dialed in. And I'm happy with that. And the 2-stroke, surprisingly, I put maybe 15 hours on that bike, and it's bone stock, and I don't know. I'm digging it.
Nice.
I raced it last weekend, bone stock, jetting, clicker settings, just hop on it and ride it, and it's just like, I don't know, it's been good.
See how it goes.
Yeah,
No, that's pretty cool. What did you think of the Roof of Africa?
you would dig it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, tech inspection, you got to have your backpack with first aid, safety blanket, flare, like matches. Like you could be staying the night out in the middle of nowhere.
That's Romaniacs.
Yeah, and I dig that. I love that. It's because when you get out in the middle of nowhere and you're like, I don't hear a bike, I don't see a single person, I don't know where I am. If my GPS dies, I have no idea where I'm going.
Yeah.
Like,
you're fucked.
Shit gets real.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. That just adds so much adventure to it to me. Like, the adrenaline is like, don't fuck up because this could get bad.
Yeah.
Be smart. And that's the thing. I'm not a sprinter like what a lot of these races are, just short sprints. I'm like, I like it to be mental and physical, and it's like you got to push through it. And there's a lot that goes through your mind when you're on the bike for 8 hours and you don't see somebody forever, and the bike might start acting up, or maybe you broke something, or you had a wreck and you get up and you're feeling like crap and you're like, I don't have anything but to push through. Like, I can't just sit here and wait for help. Well, you could. You have like your space blanket and stuff, and if you got to camp out, eventually someone will come around in like a day.
Which, by the way, a space blanket, I've used them. Theoretically, they may help you survive the night, but I'm telling you, it's not what you would consider a blanket.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, you're cold as shit. You're just maybe won't die.
Yeah. Luckily, I haven't had to try one out. I'll just keep that in my backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's those type of races. There's something that draws me into them. I dig them.
That's my favorite thing as well. Hopefully, I think we're going to do some podcasts and some cross promotion with a great organization. They're called Fieldcraft, and they actually sponsored the Rough Rider 100.
Yeah, I think I heard that. I wasn't sure what it was, but
and what they do, it seems like, and I want to get more information, but it looks like they put together essentially survival packs for all sorts of different, for example, having a great survival setup for in first aid in your sprinter van, to having something that's really, condensed for, say, being off-road moto. Mm-hmm. And that's what me too, that's my favorite. Like the TKO is a sprint, and I enjoy it just in the spirit of it. But again, being kind of from an adventure background, being one of those guys, like, I like to see what's over the next ridge, and I like wide open I like crazy adventure where you don't have, there's no net. I mean, you're out there,
right?
And like really out there. And because of that, same thing, Romaniacs, you have to have flares, you have to have a space blanket, you have to have a mirror, you have to have a whistle, you have to have headlamp and batteries and space blanket and all of these things, and it just makes it for real. And I remember, I think the first year that Billy Bolt went out, here's this guy that's incredible rider. Like, you see him ride and you think, well, geez, I mean, that dude would never get stuck on a bike. He tried to do a side hill and didn't make it. He ended up somewhere bad. He couldn't get his bike out. Couldn't ride his bike out. They came and got it. I don't know if they got it with a helicopter, but they came and got it the next day. Mm-hmm. And he was done. That was his first Romaniacs race. So there's points where, whether you wreck a bike, that you might spend the night out there. Yeah. So you think about it, even riding in Arizona and especially Montana, we'll have, we'll ride armed a lot of times. And just because, you break down 20, 30 miles back in heavily grizzly bear country, and you're spending the night out there, it's like, you may want to have a firearm.
Yeah.
And even in Arizona this year, I mean, we've had snow, we've had cold, and you really don't think about it. You're up busting some of these gnarly canyons, and, sometimes I ride by myself, or even, you're not going to ride two up out of some of these spots.
Yeah.
So, something happens, you break a bike, it seems pretty foolish not to have something to start a fire with.
Right.
At least some basics, right?
Yeah, and if like a company like that can make something that is so convenient and packed well to where it's not a big deal to be carrying it every day, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the $1 million ticket, right? Is that it's compact, it's concise, it has what you need, it's not super heavy.
Yeah.
And it's just something, man, you throw in.
And just, market it well, because I don't know any of the guys that I ride with that carry anything like that, unless it's like a big race like that to where you're having to go through tech inspection and it's required. And maybe it's a little different. I'm sure guys up in like Montana and Idaho, and you're in the big mountain kind of areas where people don't go out without having all the proper stuff in case anything goes wrong. But maybe, I don't know, the group that I'm with, we feel like we're so safe like in this little area, but shit does happen.
Yeah, you guys get out and we get out in some gnarly stuff.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, man, when you're wearing motorcycle boots, 15 miles in is a long ways.
Yeah.
In motorcycle boots.
Oh yeah.
And
even a mile.
Oh yeah. And
especially if they're wet and heavy.
And it changes too, and you're right, like the Montana, Idaho guys, I'm sure the Canadian guys, like I've got a couple good friends that we have Travis Rude and Darren Sawyer, and these guys just, they kill it. They're about, if it's not 100-mile single track day, they're like grumpy. And when you're in Idaho and in northern Washington and you do 100 miles of single track in a day, dude, you're out there. I mean, and no one's walking in motorcycle boots 50 miles. I mean, unless you have to, I guess, but
right, yeah.
not preferred.
Yeah, nobody wants to do it.
But I remember riding kind of close to the backcountry in the, a long time ago in Montana, and there are some places, I remember a dirt bike like 25, 26 miles back in it's been there. I don't know if it's still there, but when I had seen it last, it'd been there for probably 15 years.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Like, the critters had eaten the seat. And so essentially what it looked like, it broke down, and it's in a big basin, and it's a gnarly 25, 30 miles out of there. And they walked out and called it a day, like, I'm not going back in there.
Right. Took a loss on that one.
Yeah. I mean, it was like it was probably like a 70s or an 80s bike, but still, it was someone's bike.
Yeah. Long walk back, too.
There was a couple dudes where we used to ride in Idaho, a place called Avery, Idaho, in the St. Joe. And two dudes were on their snowmobiles, and they dropped down into some stuff, couldn't get out. So they walked out in a snowstorm. No idea where their snowmobiles were. Two brand new sleds. Lost them. And then the only reason I know about it is a guy I knew was horn hunting for sheds, and he found two snowmobiles. So he hikes out, and he goes to there's only like a one pump old gas station, and that's basically the center social location. So he rocks up and he's like, hey, by the way, has anybody lost? Did someone this winter? Because this is like in May. He's like, anybody this winter lose two brand new snowmobiles? The guy's like, yeah. And he had the number. And so long story short, I think he got a reward, and they brought a helicopter in.
I was going to say.
Yeah, they had a heli.
Once all the snow's gone.
Yeah, they had a heli him out.
Be rough.
Yeah, so, hey, moral of the story is, people, man, it's awesome. Go out there, push the limits, but it'd be smart to have a little
prepared
survival pack, something. I started going, I had enough of my friends giving me shit as you essentially be addicted, doing this stuff. I go out by myself and ride big mountain stuff. And so finally I did get an inReach satellite, so that something happens, I can text without cell phone, coverage, an emergency, and send an SOS. And that's probably a good idea too. And at first, I thought, it's kind of lame, but I don't know. It depends what your goal is. It's like, you can be macho, but if your goal is to ride next weekend, then maybe it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it to me.
Sure. It's tough. Yeah. Tough call on that one. I think everybody's got kind of like their preference on that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think
It just depends how big it is and how far you're back in.
Yeah.
And that's the Montana stuff. Like
it depends too. Sometimes you can't find people to go ride with.
Yeah. So I go by myself, you know, and I don't know. I had a friend of mine that it was kind of cool. We're talking about hobbies, and everyone's really good at getting a lot of hobbies, but not really doing any of them very well. And he had a litmus test for his hobbies. And he goes, he only takes time and invests in a hobby if it's something that he will happily do by himself. You know, he doesn't have to, because, you know, there's a lot of people that do something. If no one else is going, they just won't go.
Right.
So all of a sudden, people aren't going. That's the end of that hobby. So there's no doubt the dirt bike riding, it's like, I love going and riding with other people, but I love it enough that I don't have to. You know, it's like, I don't feel like I have to keep calling the call list. It's like, you know, if nothing's really going on, I'll just go do my own thing, and I enjoy that too, you know, and it is what it is. But, but no, good to be reasonably safe out there. So you have more days you can ride.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, we'll have to get you up for we got some really cool areas in Montana and Idaho. And so that'd be cool if you're able to, you know, snag a week.
Yeah.
You know, you can get acclimated to the dirt and some of the big mountain stuff, and you'd like a race like that.
Yeah, we were just talking about it a little bit today, like finding the different sides of like technical riding and what we have down here. Like we're always looking for rocks. Like that's hard, but it does so much damage to the bikes. And I'm like, I don't love to just go beat my bike up in the rocks. I like to find like the hill climbs that just never end, and you're switchbacking and
having, and I think, you know, not to cut you off, but I would look at how to find traction when there's no traction.
Yeah.
Loose hills, how to restart.
Or know when you got to turn around and start from the bottom again instead of wasting your energy halfway up thinking you got it.
True. You know, and you see it, you know, in the race this weekend. Oh man, I was there. It was, man, you may have been right in that mix too, because it was me, it was David Garza, and Grayson. Grayson was there. He was
in the final.
Yeah, he was behind me, and then and Cody came through, and he had to restart, man, and it was a gnarly kind of the bikes on a gap. And it was getting up to a rock. You had to go up, and then there was a rock ledge. The rock ledge wasn't that big of a deal, but getting the transition to get to it was. And, you know, man, it took him half a dozen tries.
Really?
You know, yeah, to compress that bike and get that restart. And again, I think that's, you know, I kind of call it the mastery of skill, is working on exactly what you're talking about, is putting yourself in those tricky environments of how to compress and how to get traction, because, you know, it's the trials is great. It's a huge thing, but I think a lot of people get focused on doing the big features, and that's really not the hardest thing.
No,
the hardest thing is, I guess if you're going to look at like golf, it's your short game. It's like the in between the big features.
Yeah, because
if you can't get traction and get set up, that's what makes the feature hard. Like if you're just doing like what you saw this weekend, like most of the stuff there, if you had like a reasonable amount of space and traction,
if you're out there by yourself,
none of it's that difficult. But if you have 6 bikes there, and then your run up is a side hill with roots, slick as hell, like not only get drive to it, you can't even hardly move. Then all of a sudden, like a 2-foot ledge becomes like a serious deal. Like you have no run up, you have nothing. So it's like how to, you know, in that super slick small section is like how do you get that traction?
Right.
And I think that's part of the trials too. You know, I mean, that's a trial skill of how to over rev and you know, use, you know, a small takeoff, if you will, you know, to get things done. And so I think emulating those types of things is big for sure. Cause I hear exactly what you're saying. It's, you know, sometimes you go and, you know, and it's cool to do the bigger rock features and get that technique down, but it just seems like in hard enduro, it's more the in between.
Yeah.
Of between the features of how to get that traction and how to position, for them, I guess. And so yeah, I totally hear you. And I'm always searching now because the training's different. I mean, it's hard. You really can't just go ride trail.
No, not really.
Doesn't really do much for you.
No, unless, and that's the thing. Maybe I'm not too familiar with the stuff up north. It sounds like you guys have some pretty gnarly trail up that way.
We got some gnarly stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, down here we don't have a ton of it. You gotta just kind of explore into like there's actually some cool stuff that like the rock crawlers get themselves into, and Jeep roads that are just rock and kind of like King of the Hammers or King of the Motos, like those kind of sections.
Well, and that, and that stuff, I went down there this year, kind of had a break for a weekend and went and raced National Hare and Hound down there. So the night before I had a little bit of time, so I went over to Hammertown since, it wasn't going on. They were there, for this year's. And I went and rode a few of those sections that we've ridden. And it's cool. It's a whole different rock environment as well. I mean, it's like riding in complete rubble, and which is kind of cool. Definitely the trials is huge there of just how to get your bike through without destroying it.
Yeah,
for sure. But again, it's totally different. It's not as much of the side hill, and the slickness and the restarts of like, say, TKO, Romaniacs. And I think, even like Erzberg, I really wasn't interested in Erzberg at all. I've never been.
Yeah.
Because I watch it and all I see is like nasty rocks in a quarry. And you're kind of like...
Yeah. I think maybe that's the downside of like what they put out on video. They don't show much of the forest stuff, which I've only done that one race in Romania. I mean, it's only a small scale because it's on a small mountain, but you get into some pretty stupid situations, especially with all the people, racing in those kind of environments. The guy behind you is cutting you off. Now you have no run, and it's just everybody's screwing everybody. And it's like, just hold on 1 second. Let me set up and get out of here, and then you're next. But yeah, there's more than rock at Erzberg, but yeah, it's definitely not.
Well, that's what converted it. I had an offer to to go over and like I said, originally I wasn't that interested, but I watched the full POV of Graham's last race, and when you watch the full GoPro footage, it's surprising how much forest there is of nasty, slick single track.
And I'm sure he made it look all easy.
Oh, of course. Just like...
It's like a sprint for him.
Yeah, just cruising by people. So that made it a lot more interesting to me. And I think, like you said... Visually, it's always looked like all the rock because that's really all the helicopters can see. So when they're videoing it live, it's almost all helicopter footage. So once you're under the canopy of the trees, you can't see anything. So the only way to see that is by their GoPro footage or the people that are in filming in certain areas. So yeah, it looks like there's a lot of, and you've been there twice. There's definitely some forest involved.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, there's a couple tricky spots. Yeah. I remember walking a downhill the first year I went, and I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to ride down this. And the first year I actually did make it to the finish line, just not in time. So I did ride everything. But last year I remember, again, walking the sections and looking down the downhill like, we go down this. Yep. I don't know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to have to get off my bike and lay it down and let it slide because there's no way I can ride down this.
Is that the one? There was one I remember on video that Andreas Lettbeckler, Letty's dad, he basically skied down with his bike, and Gomez was next to him, and he had to keep the bike like almost in a sideways slide. It was that steep that he almost had to sideways slide, drop, sideways slide, drop. It was just a vertical, long boulder slide. And actually, Andreas, I think, was almost faster.
This year?
No, this is like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He was like skiing down next. I mean, he had the bike and had his feet all the way out. And I mean, and he's going fast, man.
Yeah.
Because he's friggin' sliding. But it was basically a mountain cut where they had dropped off, and it was just.
Yeah. There's a couple spots like that. There's the one after Carl Steiner, you wrap around and you get through all that. And you're like, oh, that was miserable. And then they have you drop down one level, and they have a steep one down there too. And I remember walking that the first year, and I was like, again, shit, I really don't look forward to that. So and that's like you dread getting to Carl Steiner, then you get out of it and you're relieved, and then it's like, shit, what am I going to do here?
Yeah.
And it's just that thing where you just commit and just hope for the best and play it out in your head, like, what could happen? There's a run out at the bottom. I'm going to pick up speed, but at the bottom, just from dragging all the loose stuff, it gets deep, and that helps slow you down. But, yeah, it's quite the adrenaline rush.
Or when you get, you get a couple rocks or something underneath your back tire.
Yeah, that's always great.
Yeah, then you got a clutch. You got a clutch to roll off it.
Yeah, let go of the brake.
You got to let go of the brakes and clutch.
Yeah, I don't want to let go of the brakes going downhill, but I got to get off this thing.
Yeah, because all of a sudden, I mean, it's steering whatever way the rock wants to go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you were able to go there before the race and walk some of the sections.
Yeah, and I mean, that's like the smartest thing to do is it's get there, like a day or two before. I think I usually arrive like 2 days before. Gives me a day to kind of get everything set up for the prologue. You walk as much as you can. It's kind of cool. They rent e-bikes.
All right.
You go up, pay them like, I don't remember, 40 euros or something, and they'll let you borrow an e-bike for a while. I can't remember. There's a time cutoff on it, but you take that and just book it to whatever section you kind of want to get to, because otherwise you're hiking, which you can do that as well, but you just can't cover as much ground. And so you ride those up to the sections, and then you go and walk, I mean, as much as you can, and then take the e-bike back. And you do that maybe 2 days, try to cover
Could you pretty much see
ground.
Could you pretty much see the whole prologue?
Yeah, and so you can do that as well. I mean, the first year I tried to do it both years, but you can take the e-bike and you can ride it all the way up to prologue. And
that'd be cool.
I think that's probably the best thing to do. What I did was I took a GoPro and did it. I didn't do it on the e-bike the first year because I was kind of just figuring it out, but you get 2 runs on the prologue.
Yep.
First,
and one day and one the next day?
Right. And I ran it with the GoPro on, and then that night I watched it like 5 or 6 times, because you have no idea how repetitive it is. Just switch back.
Yeah.
And there's times where you come up and then it crests and it's not a turn, and then there's another one where it crests and there is a turn, and you're just like trying to, how many turns in, and it's just kind of like a mind game. But you got to be so spot on with the prologue because everybody's going fast, and you got to be, if you want to take it serious, you got to be on the front row, the first 50 guys. And so just kind of like all these hard enduros, it's like you don't think the prologue is as crucial, but man, when you're having to deal with all those guys in the back of the pack, you really want to be up front. And so that was kind of something I did the first year that really helped. And I tried it again this year and I blew it. I had one of my turns off and I came up and held it on, like stayed committed before I came over the rise, and it was a quick turn and I was wide open past it, and I was like, there goes probably 30 seconds, I'm done. And
because I mean it's such a thin line, and it's funny because like we talk about all the scary portions you're walking and you're wondering like, hey, can I even ride this? And I'm more worried for myself about the prologue, because I want to have a good time to get in, the first or second line, so that you're not dealing with all the shit and you actually have an opportunity to try to make these climbs. And because if you get back in there, you're hosed. And I've learned the hard way. The prologue is invaluable. Same with Romaniacs. It's everything. And if you want to be in the top top 20. You have to be. Romaniacs gives you, if you're not in the top, anything past kind of 20, you just get such a massive time penalty that it really affects. And, so originally people would say, oh, don't worry about it. You just want to get out with your bike and get healthy and save 15 minutes over 4 days isn't that big of a deal. And I'm like, no, it is. You learn the hard way. It is a massive deal because it's only assessed on day one. And, just from racing regular off-road racing, if you beat somebody by 3-4 minutes in a 3-hour race, you essentially kind of smoked them, right?
Right.
I mean, you had a really good run. You have 15 minutes in a day, and it's not just at the end. It's like if it's enough that you miss a checkpoint by 7-8 minutes, they assess you like a 12-hour penalty. You're never making up 12 hours.
Yeah.
They give you a massive penalty. So if you miss that checkpoint by 3 seconds, it's a 12-hour penalty. So, and it puts pressure on, for the prologue. So that's kind of why, since I've been down here in Arizona, I actually haven't been working as much on hard enduro as I thought I would. I'm working more on, I've just never been early, into the speed.
Right.
And,
like a sprinter.
And I've been working on sprints, and the speed's come up for sure, and definitely going to need it.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's good.
You look at guys like Jarvis who they have the technical side down, and you could see like he's been putting in the time, and I think it helped with this whole West Series having the combined format where you have some rounds that are the enduro kind of GP style versus the hard enduro, and him being at the top of his game for the hard enduro, but maybe not so much on the sprinting and the regular classic enduro. And I think seeing him pick up the speed there, you're seeing him at the hard enduro like, holy crap, he's actually on another level now, which we thought he already was, and now he's got the speed too. So you kind of need a little bit of all of it.
Yeah, I just laugh because like you hear so many of the commentators that, Graham Jarvis, not known for his speed, basically like saying he's slow. And I have to admit, I watch a lot of his POV, a lot of his GoPro, and over the last couple of years, I swear to you, he's increased his ground speed by 30%.
Oh, he's ripping.
You watch the speed that it goes by, and then he does the Erzberg prologue, and last year he was 17th overall. I mean, these are some, because a lot of the guys that are in that, so for anyone who doesn't know, you have 1,500 to 2,000 people who are trying to get a spot on that line of 500. So of course you get a lot of moto guys, and these dudes are fast on the prologue because
on 450s.
Yeah, they're riding 4 strokes. Man, they're fast as all get out, and they're specialists at that. Yeah, they don't have the hard enduro skills, but the prologue isn't a hard enduro.
Right.
So then you have Graham Jarvis on his 300. He comes in 17th overall. You telling me this dude is slow?
Right.
You're out of your fucking mind, dude. I mean, the dude rips. Yeah, he's technically probably one of the best that's ever lived, but the dude has some serious ground speed too.
Yep.
And it's Graham Jarvis is slow. He makes it it's like, no, he's not that goddamn slow.
Yeah, he's picked it up quite a bit.
Yeah, it's impressive, and definitely been working on it, and again, that kind of goes back to the toolbox, right? Of just being,
exactly.
The more well-rounded you are in those situations, you go, and I found that myself. It's like when you're doing the typical hard enduro, you have as Martin Fernandez would say, you have a heavy section. Then after that heavy section, you kind of have like a transfer section, which may be like a normal, what people would consider a hard enduro, just being the transfer.
Yeah.
It just goes from like the gnarly to something less gnarly. And typically that was kind of like your rest period. But it's funny, as you get in better shape and you keep momentum, you get to those sections, and and then if your fitness is there and you feel good, then it feels good to go fast and safely and etc.
Yeah.
But And it's funny because you hear a lot of the guys talk about it. I've heard Johnny Walker talk about it quite a few times. That like, I was really pushing, but I kept wrecking. So I had to just, dial it back.
Yep.
And, I definitely get that. I was pushing on Saturday because I knew I was behind because of the shifter. And that's the other thing too. That wasn't the answer.
Yeah.
It caused me a lot of pain.
Yeah. And the mental side of it too. Like, once the mind veers the focus, typically you're on the ground.
Yeah.
And learning to control it and be 100% present, because a lot of things are happening.
Yeah. I found the ground a bit. Yeah. So that was a point where I was definitely beat up. I had sprained my thumb, sprained my neck from doing an endo on my head. I retired a helmet because I thought it was my neck that broke, but I think it was just the helmet because it goes crunch. What
That's
else?
A good thing.
Sprained my calf, did a bunch of other stuff. And so I spent today, I went to it's a place called Balanced. They do the like hot, cold baths, infrared, compression, stuff like that, just for sports recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Huh.
So went and hit that. They were down in like Old Town Scottsdale. And that was great. Like 41 degree water drop into your neck.
Yeah, no thanks.
No nuts. No nuts. It was it was crazy. Luckily there was a couple people there, an audience, thank God, because I don't know if I would have got in.
Yeah.
So with a couple people there, I didn't want to like feel like a bitch and sit there and whine and cry, and I just went straight to my neck, and it probably took me like 3 hours to like feel normal, but I tell you what, it made a big difference.
Yeah. So what did they make you do? Like,
so you want to do contrast. So basically what it does is it manually pushes blood from your subcutaneous tissue to your organs. And it's basically like a toxin flush. So, and they say do it manually because your body does it slowly. So when you jump in 41 degree water, your blood that's in all your extremities friggin' runs. It basically all goes to protect your core. It's just boom, gone. And so then you go, so you do anywhere from 3 to 12 minutes in a super cold.
Oh, geez.
And then you get into the hot. And dude, talk about mental.
Yeah.
Like you're thinking about
getting out.
You try not to think about that because it'll be the longest time of your life.
Right.
So you start like, it's best if there's someone there to talk to.
Breathing. That's
the best. Breathe. Try to control your breathing. I mean, it's wicked. And then I've found if there's someone there to talk to, that's like the best. I mean, just because
distracts the mind.
Yeah, like they had a TV there, but that wasn't near as good as trying to talk to somebody, because you're just like, because you're like trying to watch TV just to pass time.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're talking to somebody, it's at least it's just more engaged. And then you get out of that and you jump into a kind of a hot bath, and you do that for like 3 minutes, and then you come back and jump back in again. So you do like
longer time in the cold, lesser time in the hot.
Yeah, and then you end on cold.
Okay,
which blows. But so, and then they have like air compression. So you put these I don't know, what do you call them? Fuck me boots. I think women wear them. Those boots that go all the way up to their crotches.
I have no idea. Oh.
You didn't learn that from your amateur porn star career? So they put those on. So they're these boots that basically go up to your crotch. And then you sit back in a recliner and you put your feet up, and it compresses from your toes down. So it presses all the blood from your feet all the way up and out to your core. And definitely if you have like leg fatigue.
Is that like the lactic acid as well?
Exactly.
Just trying to force that out.
Everything. And I had really sprained my calf on Saturday, and like I was limping. Saturday night, like I limped to the hotel. I'm like, man, I don't know how Sunday's gonna go, but adrenaline. Like, adrenaline was good. And then I actually, fortunately, starting Saturday morning, I actually started riding. Like I'd gotten through my shit show of Saturday, and really turned it on. And thankfully, because my original goal was I just wanted to make the top 25 pros, for the final, and got into that. Ended up with a 10th. Like, dude, I was stoked.
Yeah, solid day.
Yeah, man, I was happy. It was good though, and it's kind of fun when and I know you've been there. It's like when you can feel like what that rear wheel's doing. Like you feel when it has traction, you feel when it doesn't, and you start really kind of clicking into the bike.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's cool.
Right.
It's not just this mindless brap, brap. It's like you're feathering off when you need to feather off, and you're compressing the bike, and you're getting traction down when you need to get traction.
Yeah.
And it's a cool feeling when you start, putting it together. But as you got to be in the right frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're just about Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights, giving it gas, and if you're not first, you're last.
Yeah.
Shit sucks.
Yeah, it's not going to work out so well.
It doesn't work out well at all. But yeah, I mean, we finally got it together and got it done. The only bummer is it's like, shoot, the next Hard Enduro, I think you got Enduro Fest in Reno in May,
mm-hmm.
and then Sticks and Stones in June, and then then we'll look at, I guess there's the back east stuff, and then TKO in August. So
yep.
But we'll definitely get you up north, and
yeah, I'd be pumped on that.
Yeah, and it's a good time because it's probably going to be 8,000 degrees down here.
Yeah, perfect time to get away.
Yeah, about that time. Yeah, it's pretty crazy up there. It's funny, like you'll get days that maybe get up to 80, maybe 85. Typically, you don't see 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But then as soon as the sun goes down in the mountains, it's campfire time.
Oh yeah,
in the middle of summer, for sure. Oh, you're probably used to that from Truckee.
Yeah, I remember it. I grew up in that, in Tahoe, yeah. The heat, you definitely feel it at high elevation.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be 110 degrees to feel the heat.
Yeah.
You have a warm, sunny day, and you feel like
closer,
you're getting kicked.
You're closer to the sun.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, once that sun goes down, it gets cold quick.
That's when the coyotes and critters come, too. So,
yeah.
Fire's good. Wards them off. Wards off the evil spirits. Well, shoot, man. Well, I think, for the first one, it was pretty good, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and visit with us. And
yeah,
it's great talking with you. I know we've talked about it for a while, and yeah, man, I'm excited for the year and see your racing, and hopefully the Hard Enduro Outfitters. I think that's a great idea. The sport continues to grow.
Yeah,
and I think, formats like this to help educate people and, how to survive the harsh environments is, I don't know, probably a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I'm all on board. I definitely want to spread the word, promote the sport. That's what I'm trying to do with the business, try to offer products to the guys that are wanting to get into the sport that don't know a ton about it. I haven't been around forever on the sport. I just the last 4 or 5 years, and just trying to take the knowledge that I have and have seen from different types of races and setups, and try to bring stuff to the U.S. and that we don't see or have, and try to offer it to everyone.
Well, that's it's a lot of knowledge. I went through kind of your resume list of places you've raced, things you've been, and you just can't help but pick up things. I saw somebody at Sherco, I think the French guy, working a moose over with a Sawzall, doing some cuts that I've done a lot of massaging and custom moose work.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen that technique yet.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it and like, hey, all right, that's another option. And I think you're 100% right. There's a lot of people who are interested in doing it. And, I haven't been in the hard enduro scene very long, less time than you. And in the beginning, I had no idea. I've run some races with 18, 20 PSI mooses.
Brand new moose.
Which was not fun. And I think the thing I've learned, I also went through the phase of strapping all sorts of useless shit on my bike that I thought would make me a better rider.
Yep.
And it was useless shit. And then you have things that really do work and are efficient. And as I've gotten to know, kind of, in the pro ranks with the riders and riding with all you guys and being at that level, what I notice more is what you guys don't have on your bikes. And, there's a lot of stuff, but there's a lot you don't, like compared to just the shit that gets strapped onto bikes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's efficient. It's the things that are on there, the things that work.
Yeah, there's a balance there. You don't want to strap every single guard and have a 300-pound dirt bike.
Exactly.
And have to hump that through the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ditch what you don't need, hang on or put on what you do need to get you through the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
trial and error, figuring out what works and what doesn't.
Oh yeah, and what's just, a liability. And there's certain things you put on that can actually break and cause failure too, so it's like, it's that. And I learned that from the some of the factory mechanics are, by the time they put something on a bike, they have to be convinced that putting it on, the benefit outweighs any possible mode of failure. So if they're going to put something additional on the bike, it has to have that much of a positive benefit with no downside. And so I've started looking at it different. So I still put, a lot of custom hard enduro, not a lot, but, I have my go-to items.
Right.
And I think that's what's cool with your guys' setup is, you can look at and say, hey, this is what you need. And it's not, it's like not a bunch of crap.
Yep.
It's like, the value, the bang for the buck, this is what you want. This is what averts possible failures.
Yep.
And, you go from that, because there's definitely, the interest increases. There's a lot more people interested. I think we'll continue to see it grow. It's a fun sport. It's becoming an adventurer sport.
Yeah, totally.
Guys who want to go out and adventure, and because shit,
push their limits.
Well, that's what you do anyways. Dudes go out and like, hey, who can climb that hill?
Yeah.
And you have a go at it. This is just almost kind of a, an organized event of guys and gals just trying to get her done.
Yeah. And then, afterwards, just like this, sit back and have all the stories to tell. And like, man, when I got to this spot, it's just, I don't know. It's such a great atmosphere, and I don't know. I dig it.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it makes a lot of stories for sure. And it's funny because, like, when you look at like your path too, as far as, making a decision of, every decision that we all make has an impact one way or another. Everything has a positive, everything has a negative. You give in one spot and it takes in another. But at the end of the day, being, happy, with where you're at. And we all go through that. And I think it's a neat thing that, there has to be something said for, chasing those dreams and doing what you want. And I think that's something we'll continue to highlight, for people listening. You throw out all these names and all these crazy places of where to go. And it seems like, maybe, you got to have $1 gazillion to do it. And it's not the case. It's really not. When I'm renting a bike in Romania, it's $500 US for 7 days. That's less than $100 a day to have a new KTM, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And, the food's cheap, and, you can, if you're interested, you can save up, you can put it together. And I tell you, man, it's not a lot different than any other vacation that someone would take, except with this vacation, you're getting shit done. It's fun. You're not just wasting time and buying booze. So you can do that at home.
Right.
So, yeah. So don't be afraid to dream, man. These places, it's it's amazing. But maybe you start out and we have enough U.S. races. If one comes close, have a go at it, see what's going on, and man, hope you don't get addicted.
Right? Yeah. Seriously.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen.
Well, cool, Mitch, man. I really appreciate you coming out. I look forward to riding with you more. And man, I'm stoked. We'll just keep pressing on to 2019.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. You're
Look
welcome.
forward to it.
Thanks, dude.
Yep.
All right. We're out. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out. We'll be back with another podcast here very soon. And again, you want to find us, you can find us at inside _enduro on Instagram. Again, we're on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, all that kind of stuff. You can find Mitch at Hard Enduro Outfitters. They sell Sherco bikes. If you want a bike set up for hard enduro, you don't want to mess with it, and you want those guys to dial it in, have everything that's necessary for that bike, give them a shout. They're in Cave Creek, Arizona, and just look up Hard Enduro Outfitters, and they can set you up with a great bike. And basically, a consultant for hard enduro, which is kind of a cool thing. And and they're people. The great thing is they're obviously enthusiasts of the sport. They've been around, they've seen it, and I think it's a great resource for the hard enduro community. So with that, thank you, everybody. We're out.